When you stay up too late writing.
He was as tall as he was tall, and his eyes were the color they were.
This happens to me more than I would like to admit. But it's so poetic. It feels like the intersection of love and a quiet hatred. You want to hate him, but you don't know why, so you don't waste time describing him because you don't want to realize that you actually love him. Well, let me help. He's as tall as he was tall, and his eyes were the color they were. But none of it matters now, because the only parts of him I have today are faint memories of how he used to be. This is giving, he saw her crying, he crew too, they both crowed. He died, she cried, they cried, it was bad. Believe me, it was. She loved him, he loved her, they truly loved each other. Love was not one-sided, as it was from both sides. They both felt love and felt loved. The end. I'll get stuck on a word, so a line will end up sounding like, they had an excellent time at the excellent dinner with all the excellent people there, where all you see is the word I've gotten stuck on. 10 people died in a fire in the Bronx due to a fire in the Bronx during a fire. He was roughly the height of a human, was my lowest point. She blinked her eyes with her eyebrow as they blinked in shock, slowly gazing, coming out of shock as she closed her eyes. She walked and moved her legs, simultaneously going forward and walking towards the front to move. Sometimes I wake up and realize I forgot half the sentence. He went. After that, he school. He was human. The most human that any human has ever been. His face was recognizable, if you knew him. His voice sounded exactly like his. And his eyes were like the orbs of his eyes. He runs his hand through his hair, that was short, but not that short. It was longer than short, but not long. Oh, and it was brown, like mud. Yeah, it's time to take a break. As for his hair, let's just say he had some. OMG, I recently wrote, I learned it from my papa's stories from his time in the Great War, but I didn't tell him that. Henrik marveled at my improvised tourniquet. I told him I learned it from my papa during his time as a medic in the Great War. I saw it and just about pissed myself laughing. I literally wrote, the flowing blood flowed down my arm like a flowing river once. And my editor was like, bruh. This is so real. I once wrote, she tabled over to the table. He stood as he was, trying. Ooh, oops. She was sewing machine with the stitching for her uniform's uniform child. This is so me. Last night I wrote after a really poetic chapter introduction. The ringing of my phone pulled me back as it rang. My brother, we know it rang. You don't need to keep telling us. And they went to the restaurant to get some food, because that's where food is. Lynx fell while walking downstairs because she fell going down. The lamp sat there, like an inanimate object. A color so bright in color, it radiated color. He was such a distinguished gentleman, and a distinguished gentleman he was. And his jaw was shaped like a jaw. At times, he was almost as smart as himself. She wagged her tail wagging. I stayed up late finishing a writing assignment, and ended up writing, sitting on the edge of the motel bed, he sat. She was tall, her eyes are golden, the color of gold, golden eyes, yes. He looked with his eyes as hard as his eyes could look. He was adjective, and he did something. Fill in later. The shape goes into the shape press that presses the shape into a pressed shape vibes. Okay, but an entire book in this style where it's intentionally supposed to make the reader confused or frustrated would be so fun if it's marketed right and clearly made to be like that. It was the kind of evening that felt like an evening, exactly how evenings feel when they're being especially evening-y. He sat there, sitting with the sort of commitment only sitting could provide, eyes the color of definite vision, looking at things that were certainly there. She spoke with a voice that was unmistakably voiced, saying words that sounded like sentences, which had once been thoughts, maybe. Outside, the sky was sky-colored, vast and vaguely important, while the wind did its best impression of movement. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked with dog-like enthusiasm, reminding everyone that sound exists. The moment was full of moments, stacked like pancakes of perception, slightly overcooked and deeply meaningful to no one in particular. But meaning, of course, is subjective. Probably. And yet, in the middle of this profound stillness, it hit him. Oh yeah, coffee sounds awesome right now. Like, aggressively awesome. Also, his bed was calling him like a lover calls to their lover after a day spent longing so hard even the longing needed a nap. Soft sheets like arms that never judged and always remembered the shape of who you were when you forgot. He arrived precisely when he did, at the exact time that the moment required. No sooner, no later. His coat hung around him with the unmistakable shape of a coat that was indeed being worn. It clung with the weight of fabrics unknown, or known, depending on one's experience with fabrics. He stood at the edge of what might have been a field, or a street, or some undisclosed in-between. The air around him was thick with the kind of silence that makes you think of other, different silences. His eyes, a shade of definite color, searched the horizon, or something close to it, for the thing he had come for. If he had come for anything at all. People say he had a name. Others say he did not. Both camps are equally passionate. Those who saw him said he moved with the grace of someone who was walking, possibly forward, with feet that operated independently and yet in concert. His steps made sounds that could only be described as the kinds of sounds made by steps. Each footfall carried the weight of both the previous step and the one that would eventually follow, in a kind of temporal relay. He met a woman, or a man, or someone else entirely, by the place where things usually happen. Their conversation was charged with the kind of tension that conversation can have when it's between two individuals who are speaking. Words were exchanged in the order that seemed most fitting at the time, none of which I remembered, but all of which mattered. She, or he, or they looked at him in a way that suggested understanding, or confusion, or both, entangled in an emotional Mobius strip. Their expression held the kind of meaning that meant something only if you knew what it meant. Then, as was inevitable, he left, or stayed, or both in a metaphysical sense. To this day, those who know him, or don't, tell the story the same way, vaguely, with deep conviction. And in the end, isn't that what all stories are? At least, the ones that are told. Big thank you to my Patreon members, my Little Ruse, Nebulatic Vexen, Donka42, John Huang, Laser Scorpio, Night Avenger, Mintara, Somnophobic Danny, Savage Otters, Valzy, Terabyte AIX, Kestrel, Dragonborn Canid, Angie Ender, and Marbsk. Thank you so much for extra support on Patreon. It means the world to me, and I hope you guys are doing well. You rock. Same goes to my YouTube channel members, my Mini Ruse, Foxstar Killer, Rainy Cant, and Alilawin North 24. Thank you for your extra support. I'm so glad to have you be a part of my YouTube channel. Keep on rocking on, and I wish you all the best. And thank you to everyone else for watching. I love to see more comments written in this unique, ambiguous style. Sort of absurdly vague yet obvious statements that clearly sometimes we write just because our brains are tired and we're not writing well. But if you do it on purpose, it comes off as very uniquely poetic. So I thought all the comments on this Instagram post were a good mix of funny and relatable, but also really creative writing, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, I send all my best wishes your way.